The Valtorian fleet glided silently through the endless darkness of the Kashara expanse. Stars streaked past like frozen fire as massive warships floated in perfect formation. Captain Varel stood on the bridge of the flagship Iron Talon, her sharp eyes scanning the void ahead. She was proud of her fleet. Every ship was a masterpiece of Valtorian engineering, every crew member trained to perfection, every weapon system tested and retested. They were the strongest in this part of the galaxy, or so they thought. The silence of space was broken by a flicker on the sensors. Lieutenant Krail, Varel's youngest officer, leaned over his console, frowning. "Captain, we are picking up a signal. It's unusual." Varel walked closer, her claws tapping on the smooth metal floor. "Unusual how?" The screen displayed a massive object drifting far off the main lanes of space traffic. Its energy signature was unlike anything the Valtorians had catalogued. Angular, enormous, bristling with strange nodes that pulsed like living veins, it floated silently, ignoring all navigational norms. The name that came up on the scanner made the bridge freeze. "It's human." A ripple of disbelief passed through the crew. Humans were considered primitive, weak, fragile. Their homeworld had barely left the cradle of space travel centuries ago. The stories of their courage were dismissed as myths or exaggerations. And yet here was a human battleship, massive and powerful, floating alone in a part of space no human had any reason to be. Varel's instincts told her to be careful. Something about this ship did not feel ordinary. It moved with confidence but not aggression. It seemed alive. There was a strange aura of power radiating from it, subtle but undeniable, like a predator watching silently before deciding to strike. "Scan it," Varel ordered, her voice calm but firm. She did not want to show fear, but her claws flexed against the console. "We need to know what we're dealing with." The science officer, an old veteran named Thale, hesitated. "Captain, I don't understand. It's unlike any human ship we've ever seen. It might be dangerous." Varel's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll know soon enough." As the scanners focused, the bridge was filled with a soft hum, almost musical in tone. Then alarms blared. Screens flashed with cascading data streams. Energy cores larger than the Iron Talon itself. Propulsion systems that seemed to bend reality. Shields that shimmered in impossible ways. Every metric defied understanding. The crew gasped. Lieutenant Krail whispered almost to himself, It's impossible." The human ship did not move. It did not attack. It simply existed, floating in the emptiness of space, and yet Varel felt an icy shiver creep along her spine. The longer they scanned, the more it felt as if the ship could see them, as if it knew everything about the Valtorians already. The more they learned, the smaller they felt. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of machines. Some crew members exchanged nervous glances. Old stories of human courage and audacity ran through their minds. The tales of humans surviving against impossible odds, of facing death and refusing to surrender. Until now, those stories were just legends. Now they felt real. Varel turned to her officers, trying to steady herself. "Prepare a full tactical scan," she ordered. "I want every detail, every weakness. We need to know if this ship is a threat, or if it's a curiosity we can study safely." Her words were steady, but her heart beat faster than usual. Pride, curiosity, fear, it all mingled in her chest. This was more than a simple mission. This was a test, a challenge. And whatever humans had created, it was unlike anything the Valtorians had ever faced. Outside the viewport, the human battleship continued to drift, silent, calm, and unyielding. It was a giant in the dark, alone yet commanding. Captain Varel knew deep down that this encounter would change everything, but she did not yet know how deeply or how quickly. And so, with a mixture of awe and unease, the Iron Talon prepared to study the human ship. Unaware that the moment they scanned it, the Valtorians had already stepped into a world far more dangerous than they could imagine. The bridge of the Iron Talon buzzed with tension. Red lights flickered as the scanners fed endless streams of data to the crew. Every display flashed numbers and symbols the science officer had never seen before. Every measurement defied the laws of physics the Valtorians had studied for centuries. Lieutenant Krail leaned closer to the console, his claws hovering nervously over the controls. "Captain, the ship's energy cores, they're off the charts. And the shields. They aren't just strong, Bend light, energy, even time in some way I don't understand. Captain Varel's jaw tightened. She had faced many unusual ships in her career, but nothing like this. Impossible doesn't scare us, she said firmly. Humans are weak. There must be a flaw. Scan it again. Find it. Thale, the science officer, shook his head. Captain, every system we measure shows perfection. It's as if the ship adapts to the scan itself. Every attempt we make to analyze it changes the data. I've never seen anything like this. It's alive in some way. Varel's tail flicked with agitation. Alive? It's a machine, Thale. A machine with humans inside. Find a weakness or we'll leave. But even as she spoke, the crew felt a strange unease creeping through the ship. Something about the human battleship was unsettling. It didn't just resist analysis, it seemed to anticipate it. Every scanner reading that came back was different from the last. Every metric contradicted the previous one. It was as if the ship itself knew what the Valtorians were trying to learn. The bridge grew quieter as fear settled like a shadow over the crew. Young officers whispered to each other, unsure whether to trust their instincts or their training. Do you feel that? One asked. It's like it's watching us, learning from us. Varel forced herself to take a deep breath. Enough hesitation. Prepare the tactical drones. We'll probe it physically, find its weak spots. As the drones approached the human ship, an unusual pulse emanated from it. Not a weapon, not an attack, but a wave of energy that disrupted the drone's systems instantly. They twitched, spun uncontrollably, and then fell silent, dead in space. The crew froze. It disabled our drones without touching them, Krail whispered. It's impossible. Varel's voice was steady, though her heart raced. Prepare a new wave of scanners. This ship may be human, but we are the Valtorians. We don't retreat from challenges. We adapt. Thale's claws hovered over the controls. Captain, if we continue, the ship may respond more aggressively. We've already seen what it can do without even attacking. Varel's eyes narrowed. Then we'll see what humans are really capable of. I want every sensor on it. Full analysis. Every weakness, every flaw. If there is one, we'll find it. But the moment they launched the next wave of scans, the bridge shook violently. Consoles flickered, alarms screamed, and systems began to fail. Lights dimmed, engines stuttered, and the fleet's formation wavered. What's happening? Shouted an officer. The scanners. There. Before anyone could finish, the voice of the human ship echoed through the comm system. Calm, unhurried, yet filled with an undeniable authority. You scanned us. That was your mistake. The bridge fell silent. Every officer froze. Even Captain Varel felt a chill run through her claws. The words were not a threat, not a challenge, they were a statement. A warning. A truth. The human battleship had not fired a single shot, yet in an instant, the Valtorians realized the danger was far greater than anything they had imagined. Scanning it, they had revealed themselves, exposed their pride, and drawn the attention of something far more powerful than they could measure. For the first time in her career, Captain Varel doubted everything she knew about war, about power, and about humanity. The human ship did not merely exist, it commanded, it observed, and it punished with precision the smallest act of arrogance. And as the fleet shuddered under systems failing in strange, inexplicable ways, the Valtorians understood something terrifying. They had underestimated humans, and that mistake might already be too late to fix. The Iron Talon trembled as the Valtorian fleet struggled to regain control of their systems. Red lights blinked across consoles, engines groaned, and shields flickered. The bridge was filled with a tense, heavy silence broken only by the hum of malfunctioning machinery. Captain Varel stood rigid, her eyes fixed on the silent human ship. It had not moved. It had not fired a single shot. Yet the damage was undeniable. The Valtorians' most advanced fleet had been shaken, paralyzed without violence. A cold realization spread through her. This was no ordinary machine, no ordinary human crew. Lieutenant Krail swallowed hard. Captain, it's responding to our scans. Every attempt to probe it makes it stronger or smarter? Thale nodded grimly. It's analyzing us, learning. Every move we make, every signal we send, it knows. I don't understand how, but it does. Varel's claws clenched around the edge of the console. Pride warred with fear inside her chest. The Valtorians had faced countless enemies, conquered countless systems. They had always been the hunters, never the hunted. And yet here in the empty void of space they were unsure. unsure if they were facing a foe or a force beyond comprehension. "We can't back down now," Varel said, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "We are the Valtorians. We face challenges. We find weaknesses. Prepare a formation. Move closer." The fleet obeyed, engines straining, shields flickering. The human ship remained still, almost serene, as if it had all the time in the universe. Then, without warning, it released a pulse of energy. The effect was subtle at first, just a flicker on the screens, but quickly escalated. Systems went dark. Navigation controls stuttered. Weapons jammed. Communication lines filled with static. What did it do? Krail shouted, panic rising. "Our systems, everything fails." Thal's claws trembled over the controls. "It's not attacking, it's controlling the battlefield without firing. We can't touch it." Varel felt a chill creeping through her body. This was beyond strategy, beyond technology. This was human ingenuity. Raw and precise, delivered without malice but with absolute authority. The human ship had revealed a terrifying truth. It didn't need to fight to dominate. It simply existed, and that existence commanded respect. The calm, measured voice returned on the comms. "You scanned us. That was your mistake. Leave now and live." It was neither a threat nor an insult. It was a statement of fact. The words cut through the tension like a blade. Every Valtorian on the bridge understood. This was the line they were not meant to cross. Captain Varel's pride burned, but so did a spark of fear. For the first time, she wondered if humans were more than what their legends claimed, more than fragile, more than primitive. Could they really be the galaxy's equal or its superior in ways no one had imagined? The human ship shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly, as if acknowledging their presence but refusing to escalate. The pulse of energy lingered, a warning etched into the minds of every officer on the bridge. Krail whispered almost to himself. They didn't attack, and yet they could destroy us all in an instant. Why are we even still here? Varel's voice was calm, but her tail twitched nervously. "We are still here because we cannot afford to ignore a challenge. But we will proceed carefully. Observe, learn, and do not provoke further. This ship, this species, is unlike anything we have faced." The bridge was silent again, tension settling into a slow-burning unease. The human ship floated in space, unmoving, almost passive, but the crew knew it was a predator, watching, learning, and ready to respond if the Valtorians made another mistake. Captain Varel took a deep breath. She had faced impossible odds before, but nothing had ever felt like this. The humans were not merely warriors. They were a force of nature, unpredictable and unstoppable, and for the first time, the Valtorians felt what it meant to truly underestimate an enemy. And deep in her chest, Varel realized a terrifying truth. This encounter was no accident. Humanity's power was not in destruction alone, it was in restraint, intelligence, and audacity. And the galaxy had never faced anything like it before. The Valtorian fleet hovered tensely in the Kashara expanse, their ships struggling to maintain formation. Red warning lights flickered across every bridge, engines hummed with strained effort, and consoles blinked with erratic signals. The Iron Talon's bridge was a storm of panic and disbelief. No one could deny it anymore. The human battleship was unlike anything the Valtorians had ever faced. Captain Varel gripped the railing, her claws white from tension. "Report," she demanded. Lieutenant Krail's eyes were wide. "Captain, shields are down on 2 cruisers, engines failing. Our drones, they've all been disabled. It's like the human ship knows our every move before we make it." Thal's voice trembled. "It's not attacking, at least not in the way we understand attack. But it's demonstrating control, absolute control. Our fleet is paralyzed without a single weapon fired." Varel's mind raced. They were trained for battle, for war, for cunning opponents. Yet none of that mattered here. This human ship had no visible weapons engaged, no aggressive maneuvers, and still, it had them trapped in a web of fear. Krail swallowed hard. "Captain, I think it's teaching us a lesson. Doesn't need to destroy us, it just needs to exist." Varel's chest tightened. The words were terrifyingly accurate. Every instinct screamed that this was true. The humans did not rely on brute force. They relied on ingenuity, calculation, and unyielding confidence. And that confidence was more dangerous than any weapon. Suddenly, the human ship pulsed again, not with destruction, but with precision. Systems across the fleet flickered violently. Engines coughed, weapons jammed, and even the bridge lighting stuttered. It was a silent, unstoppable wave of authority. Krail gasped. They didn't fire. They didn't even touch us! And yet our fleet is helpless. Varel's jaw clenched. Pride warred with fear in her chest. She wanted to shout orders, to attack, to prove the Valtorians' superiority, but she could feel the weight of the human presence pressing down, silent and undeniable. This ship, these humans, were not just powerful. They were precise, smart, and fearless. The calm human voice crackled over the comms again. You are intruders. You scanned us. That was your mistake. Leave now and you may survive, no taunt. No anger, no challenge. Just a statement of fact. And it struck deep, echoing in the minds of every officer. The humans were not threatening, they were demonstrating power, and it was absolute. Varel realized something chilling. The humans did not need to fire a single shot. They did not need to chase. They did not need to fight. Their superiority was in their existence, their ingenuity, and their refusal to conform to fear. Every Valtorian knew deep down that if the humans chose to act, nothing could stop them. Krail whispered almost to himself, We underestimated them, and it may already be too late. Varel turned to her crew, her voice calm but edged with urgency. All units, retreat, not yet. Observe, learn, do not provoke. This is no ordinary encounter. These humans, they are something else entirely. Outside the viewport, the human battleship floated silently, a massive silhouette against the starfield. Its energy nodes pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. Calm, controlled, terrifying in its simplicity. The Valtorians understood in that instant that humanity was not a species to measure by numbers or weapons. Their strength lay in cunning, adaptability, and fearlessness. Varel's pride stung, but her respect grew. She had faced enemies who were stronger in firepower, faster in speed, and cleverer in tactics. But she had never faced an opponent like this. The humans were not just warriors, they were a force of nature. And in that cold, silent moment, the Valtorians realized the truth. They had scanned the human ship. That had been their mistake. And now they were at the mercy of something far beyond their comprehension. Something they could not fight with conventional war, and something they would never forget. The fleet remained still, the humans waiting silently, and Varel understood the unspoken command. Respect, retreat, survive. The Valtorian fleet drifted in stunned silence. Their ships, once symbols of strength and power, were trembling shadows of their former glory. The Iron Talon's bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of failing systems. Every officer, every crew member felt the invisible weight of the human battleship looming over them. Captain Varel leaned against the console, her claws gripping the edge. Pride battled with fear in her chest. She had faced many enemies, but none like this. None who could dominate without firing a single shot. None who could make a fleet of the most advanced warships in the galaxy feel powerless. Lieutenant Krail's voice broke the silence. Captain, I think I understand now. They didn't attack. They didn't even need to. They are teaching us, showing us their strength without destroying us. Thale, the science officer, nodded slowly. It's terrifying. And beautiful. Their ship, their crew, their tactics. It's more than technology. It's a reflection of who they are. Humans are not just fighters. They are problem solvers, risk takers, unstoppable when they believe in themselves. Varel felt a shiver run down her spine. Humans had always been underestimated. Weak, fragile, slow. Words her species had repeated for centuries. And yet here was proof that those assumptions were wrong. Humans thrived not because of raw strength, but because of courage, unpredictability, and sheer determination. The human ship shifted again, but not aggressively. Its energy nodes pulsed in a slow, deliberate rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. The pulse carried a quiet warning, a presence that demanded respect. The Valtorians realized something profound. Humans did not need to destroy to prove their power. Their intelligence, their adaptability, and their spirit were weapons far deadlier than anything built by the Valtorians. Krail whispered, almost in awe. We can't fight them. Not like this. Not ever. Varel exhaled slowly, the words tasting bitter in her mouth. It's true, they are extraordinary. She paused, staring at the silent giant. We thought we were hunters. But humans, they are forces of nature. They survive. They adapt. They rise when everything is against them, and now we see it for ourselves. The fleet remained motionless, not out of obedience but out of understanding. Any sudden move could trigger consequences they could not predict. The human battleship had made its point. Its power was undeniable, but its method was unlike anything the Valtorians had faced. No violence, no firepower, just presence, intelligence, and unshakable confidence. Thale spoke again, voice trembling with emotion. "Captain, this is why the legends spoke of humans, not because they are invincible, but because they never give up. No matter how impossible the odds, they find a way. That's their strength." Varel nodded slowly, a mix of respect and humility washing over her. She realized that this encounter would hang the Valtorians forever. They had faced the impossible, and they had learned the truth about humanity. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were unpredictable, unstoppable, and undeniable. Krail's eyes softened, almost reverent. "They didn't need to fire a single shot to prove it. That is terrifying." Varel's tail twitched in agreement. "It is terrifying. And inspiring. The human way is not about conquest. It's about courage, intelligence, and spirit. And the galaxy will never see them the same way again." The human ship floated silently, as if aware of the understanding it had forced upon the Valtorians. It did not chase. It did not gloat. It simply existed, demonstrating what humans were capable of in the most elegant, precise, and terrifying way possible. And in that moment, the Valtorians understood something important. Humans were not just a species. They were an idea, a force that thrived against impossible odds, that commanded respect without threat, and that would never, ever be underestimated again. Captain Varel closed her eyes for a moment, the weight of the encounter pressing down on her. This was more than a battle. It was a lesson, and humanity had just written the rules. The Valtorian fleet drifted in the Kashara expanse, a shadow of its former pride. Engines sputtered and shields flickered weakly, but the most powerful blows had not come from weapons. They had come from a force far subtler, far more terrifying. The human battleship had shown them power without aggression, control without violence, and the fleet could not deny it. Captain Varel stood rigid on the bridge of the Iron Talon, her claws gripping the railing. She felt a strange mix of relief, shame, and awe. Pride burned in her chest, but fear weighed heavier. She had commanded fleets, faced enemies of every kind, and yet nothing had made her feel so small, so unprepared. As this encounter, Lieutenant Krail whispered, almost to himself, "They didn't fire a single shot, they just existed, and we can't do anything." Thale, the science officer, nodded grimly. "It's more than existence. It's presence, calculation, and understanding. Every move we make, they already know. Every weakness we show, they can exploit. We can't fight that, not yet. Maybe never." Varel's tail twitched nervously. She wanted to fight, to prove herself, to show that the Valtorians could overcome anything. But deep inside, she knew the truth. Humans were not like any species she had faced. They were unpredictable, unstoppable, and fearless. Their ingenuity and courage were weapons in themselves, and the galaxy had underestimated them for centuries. The calm human ship remained in the distance, massive and silent, almost serene. Its energy nodes pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. There was no rush, no aggression. It did not need to attack. The Valtorians had learned the hard way. Power could be commanded without firing a shot, and that was the most terrifying lesson of all. Varel exhaled slowly. "Prepare to retreat," she ordered, voice steady but heavy. We've seen enough. This encounter is over for now." Krail's eyes widened. "Retreat, Captain. Our pride, our reputation." Varel shook her head. "We preserve our fleet. That is more important than pride. We underestimated them, and we can't afford a repeat mistake. Retreat is survival, not shame." The fleet slowly turned, engines straining, shields flickering, and the human battleship observed silently. No pursuit, no mockery. It simply floated, letting the Valtorians leave with the lesson already etched into their minds. As the fleet moved away, the crew began to whisper among themselves. "Did you see how precise it was?" one officer said. "How calm. How perfect." Krail's voice was quieter, filled with awe. "They didn't need to attack. They just existed, and we knew we were helpless. That is strength beyond anything we imagined." Thale shook his head slowly. "We always mocked humans, called them weak, fragile, primitive. But now we understand. Their courage, their mind, their spirit. It's unstoppable. And we faced it today. We survived, but barely. Varel's gaze lingered on the fading silhouette of the human ship. Pride and fear warred inside her. She had wanted to dominate, to prove the Valtorians' superiority. Instead, she had witnessed something extraordinary. Humanity was more than survival. It was innovation, courage, and an unyielding spirit made flesh. And now the galaxy would have to reckon with it. Krail whispered almost reverently. We underestimated them. We mocked them, and now we have to respect them, or pay a higher price next time. Varel nodded slowly, feeling a deep, humbling truth settle over her. Humans were not to be fought or measured like other species. They were to be understood, respected, and if necessary, feared. Their way of power was not in destruction, but in audacity, precision, and the quiet confidence that they could survive anything. As the Valtorian fleet disappeared into the stars, the human battleship remained alone in the expanse, silent and unyielding. It did not celebrate victory, nor did it gloat. It simply existed, a quiet testament to the strength of humanity and the dangers of underestimating them. Captain Varel stood alone on the bridge for a long moment. The lesson was clear. The galaxy had witnessed it. The Valtorians had learned it. And every officer, every crew member knew that the humans they had faced were not just warriors. They were something more. Something unstoppable, and in that quiet, dark moment, the Valtorians realized a truth that would echo across their fleets for generations. They had scanned a human battleship, and that single act had changed everything. The Valtorian fleet was far away now, retreating into the void of the Kashara expanse. The red warning lights of the Iron Talon still glowed faintly, a reminder of the encounter that had shaken every officer to their core. The human battleship had not pursued them. It had not fired a single shot, and yet it had left a mark deeper than any weapon ever could, a mark of respect, fear, and awe. Captain Varel stood at the viewport, staring into the darkness. Pride, frustration, and disbelief swirled in her chest. She had commanded fleets, led victories, and faced enemies across countless systems. But this had been different. Humans had shown the galaxy a kind of strength no one could measure with weapons, strategy, or numbers. Their power was in courage, ingenuity, and an unyielding spirit. Lieutenant Krail, still shaken, whispered, "Captain, we can't fight them. Not like this. We barely survived, and they didn't even touch us." Thela nodded, eyes wide with understanding. It's more than fighting. They survive. They adapt. They calculate and anticipate. They are not just a species, they are a force, and they make the galaxy respect them without ever raising a weapon. Varel took a slow breath. The lesson was clear. The humans had not just demonstrated technology or firepower, they had demonstrated the human way. Determination, intelligence, and spirit had triumphed over arrogance, over pride, over centuries of Valtorian assumptions. Every Valtorian on that bridge knew they had glimpsed something extraordinary. Krail's voice trembled. We underestimated them. We mocked them, and now we have to respect them, or pay a higher price next time. Varel's tail flicked in agreement. This is more than a battle lesson. It's a warning to the galaxy. Humans are not to be counted out. They are not fragile. They are not slow. They are remarkable, and we have seen only a fraction of what they can do. The fleet moved silently through the stars, leaving the human battleship behind, still watching, still calm, a giant among the darkness. There was no threat, no victory dance, no arrogance, only quiet power, the kind that demanded understanding, not destruction. Varel knew that the story of this encounter would spread across every sector. Ships would whisper of the humans who could command respect without war, who could paralyze fleets with presence alone, who could turn arrogance into humility with nothing but their intelligence and spirit. Humanity's legend had grown, and the galaxy would have to remember it. Krail looked out at the empty expanse and said softly, I thought humans were weak, primitive, but now I know. They are unstoppable, and we are lucky to have survived this first encounter. Varel nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. We are not the hunters anymore. Today humans showed us a force we cannot ignore, a force we must respect, a force that will shape the galaxy in ways we cannot yet imagine. The stars stretched endlessly before them, but the memory of that silent, powerful human ship would never fade. It was a reminder that true strength did not always roar in explosions or burn with fire. Sometimes it existed in quiet confidence, in intelligence, in unity, and in courage. And far across the void, the human battleship sailed onward, its crew unaware of the legends they had begun. They had faced a galaxy that doubted them, laughed at them, and challenged them, and they had survived. Not with anger, not with cruelty, but with the quiet, unstoppable force of humanity itself. The Valtorians would tell the story for generations. They had scanned a human battleship, and in that instant, they had seen the truth. That humans were not just a species, they were an idea, a force, a civilization that could face anything, adapt, survive, and rise above every expectation. And the galaxy learned a lesson it would never forget. Never underestimate a human. Even in silence, even without a fight, humanity had won respect, and they would continue to win it. Wherever the stars took them,